What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're wearing our lovely Abraxas shirt here in honor of the Sarah J. Maas books up there. But I love what it says, stop and smell the flowers. And today was just one of those days where I did need to stop and smell flowers because, guys, it was a busy day today. Let me tell you. Lots of facilities, lots of running around. But then I got a chance to stop, relax, and I went and got my nails done. So we did a little pampering visit. Here are the new nails, guys. I am obsessed. I freaking adore them. They're so cute and they're so summer and they're so me. So I'm loving that. But why are you here today? You are here to talk about books, not about nails. So let's get into it. Before I talk about what we're going to be reviewing today, which is, of course, a certain set of books, I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining me here on this corner of the internet at JB's Corner. If you're new here, welcome. If you're a returning individual to this channel, well, thank you so much for coming back and joining me as we talk all things books. Without further ado, let's get into it, shall we? So, as you guys may know, I decided that I was going to tackle my physical TBR recently, and I have realized I have quite a few books on my physical TBR. Naughty me. So one of the series that I really wanted to read was the Anna Huang books, because I do know that the King of Sin's books are in the same universe as the Twisted Love series, but they're not necessarily related. They're all standalone books. So that being said, I finally sat down and read the Twisted Love series. For those of you who are wondering, this is what they look like. These books are gorgeous, by the way. I actually really like just how the books look on their own. So in order, we are basically following 4 different women and their relationships. Now, these 4 girls are all best friends, and so it basically follows their story, and each character and their future relationship essentially is introduced in a previous book. So that was another fun aspect of these books because all the different characters were interrelated. So the first book that I read was Twisted Love. Now, Twisted Love is book 1 in the series, and it basically follows Alex Volkov and Ava Chen. And the storyline is basically about a brooding, kind of grumpy, overly ambitious, very, very rich young man who falls in love with, of course, our classic sunshine trope. In fact, he actually calls her Sunshine. So this book was absolutely entertaining. It was a lot of fun. Lots of spice, guys. Lots and lots and lots of spice in these books. And it's not just your typical spice. I mean, it's a decent amount of spice. They go into detail, and there is definitely a lot to be said about the type of spice that's happening. It's more aggressive, if you will. It's more intense, but I would say it does add to the story and the characters as a whole. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I drank it up. This was my absolute favorite of the 4, and this was a solid 5-star read for me. Like, I absolutely loved this book. I think the character of Alex is particularly entertaining. I think Ava's story is really interesting, and I like the fact that they developed the 2 characters individually outside of one another, and then also their relationship as well. And so I thoroughly enjoyed that aspect of this book. So if you guys are interested in reading something fun, fast-paced, easy, I would definitely recommend this book. I would also say that it is a little spice heavy, just for those who are looking at that component of the book. I would say it's a solid 4 chili stars for me. Like, this was a lot, but it was a very, very well-written book. Book number 2 actually follows the second friend, Bridget, who also happens to be royalty. She is from the town or country of Aldonia, and she is, at the beginning of this book, just a princess. Now, all of a sudden, she's in a position where she may have to be queen, and it's coming at her much more quickly than she thought it would. She's also been very comfortably with her previous bodyguard forever, who was also in this book. And then he decides to take paternity leave. So she's assigned a new bodyguard who happens to be very surly, very serious, military, very, very well trained, but does he really have a heart? ? Whereas Bridget herself is very cheerful, happy, wonderful girl, obviously very poised, put together. You know, she's been trained to be a princess her whole life, very in control of her emotions, very understanding of her duties and responsibilities and public image. And now, of course, we have a situation where we have a romance brewing that should not happen. So this book is following the stories of Bridget and Reese, and it, I think, is very, very sweet. It reminded me a lot of Princess Diaries, like that kind of vibe. I think overall this book was very entertaining. It was a fast-paced read. It was a different world. It was a different area that you're experiencing, because Aldonia is like a completely different world in the United States, which is where she went to school and met the other three girls. But I do really love the way she describes Aldonia, the role that she's having to take on, and I think the struggles that she's going through in terms of her responsibility to country and family versus her heart. So overall, very well written. It reminds me in particular of Princess Diaries 2, where they're trying to change the legal laws. So again, following that idea that in the country of Aldonia, you are to marry within royalty, and that they have never had a female queen before. So I think this one was really fun to read. I do think it was highly entertaining. I do think that this one was also quite spicy. If that doesn't bother you, then this is a great book to read. Again, I would say this is a 4-star or 4 chili level spice as well. But I would give this book a solid 4 stars. Not quite hitting the spot for me in the way that Twisted Love did. I just think this is going to be one of my forever favorites. Like, I loved this book. I loved Ava. I loved Josh. I loved Alex. I loved all the friends and the way that they're described. Like, I just freaking loved this book and the way that it introduced all the other characters. So I think this will always have a special place in my heart. But this was also equally delicious. So very fun, fast-paced read, and would definitely recommend. Then after that came book number 3, which is Twisted Hate. Now, this is the one I was most looking forward to because the 2 characters in this book just spoke to me. So one of them is Jules. Jules is also known as Red in this book because she's hot-tempered. And then we have Josh Chen, who happens to be Ava Chen's older brother. Now, those two have always hated each other since the beginning of time. They've just never quite gotten along. And now they're stuck in an environment where she has just been hired into a firm where he volunteers. Josh is in training to be a doctor, and Jules is about to take her bar exam in order to become a lawyer. Both of them are highly motivated individuals. Both of them have very interesting pasts. You have components of blackmail in this. You have components of emotional trauma. You have family dysfunction, like all kinds of things going on in this book that I truly enjoyed. Also, I just really love the enemies to lovers trope in general, and I think that was particularly fun to read in this book. I couldn't help but root for Jules and for Josh, and so this one was a really fun one to read. Few bones to pick about this book, though. There is a scene in this book. Josh does something after he finds out a piece of information from Jules, and he uses that against her in the most cruel fashion possible and completely breaks her down. And the way that that situation is resolved, the speed at which that situation is resolved, and the way that this book ended, I wanted more. I wanted more for Jules. I think Jules deserved better, and I think Josh owed her a much bigger apology. But I do overall think the storyline was very entertaining and fun to read. Also, keep in mind that Josh is an ER doctor, so some of the cases you hear talked about and things like that can be a little overwhelming. But I do think that in general, it's a wonderful book. This one was also a 5-star read for me. I absolutely love Twisted Hate. I think between Twisted Love and Twisted Hate, they're both kind of right up there for me. I really, really enjoyed this book. But then I got to that scene. I got to that scene with Joshy, and I was just like, no. You don't get to say that to someone. Absolutely not. And so that's what knocked it down for me just a smidge. So now this is sitting at a 4.75 because of that one scene. I think the way that he handled her and the way that he spoke to her was completely inappropriate. I'm going to leave it there because I want to keep it vague and I want to see what people think when they read the book, and definitely leave comments below. But in the spirit of not spoiling any of these books, I don't want to say much more than that. But I will say the other thing that bothered me about this book is the way that they talk to each other and the way that the relationship began, the way that they communicate, the way that they treat each other. There are certain aggressive things that happen in their passions, if you will, that bothered me. I don't think it retracted from the book. I don't think it would bother everybody, but I think for me personally, as someone who's like a romantic and someone who wants two people to get together, sure, because they're lusting after each other, and you know, we've been waiting half the book for them to get together. Yeah. All of that's true. But I just think there should be more respect and love in the act. That bothered me a little bit. But again, like I said, this is an enemies to lovers book. So as long as those things don't bother you, I think this is a great book. Like I said, this was my second favorite. And the only reason it's not a 5-star is because that one little itty bitty section in the end of the book. But overall, I would say this was a very, very fun read. I absolutely love Jules. Like, I freaking love Jules. And I absolutely love Josh. I think they're both wonderful characters. I think they're both absolutely perfect for each other. And I think this one was just way too much fun to read. And I would definitely recommend it to everyone who doesn't mind a little bit of spice. Because again, this is a solid 4-star spice book. 4 chili spice book. Not stars. Chili, guys. Chili. Then the last one we have is Twisted Lies. This one I did not love that much. I don't like the main girl character in this book that much. I think Stella of the 4 friends had the least appeal. I think she had the least interesting storyline. I think the drama that's surrounding her is very flimsy at best. Basically, she's dealing with a stalker. Like, that part sure kept the book moving and whatnot. And then there was a situation with her family where it's like kind of dysfunctional family, but overall, she as a character, I could not relate to her. I could not care about her. I do think that Anna Huang did a good job of expressing her anxiety, expressing her social inability to feel comfortable in certain situations, standing up for herself, kind of pulling her out of that cocoon, if you will, to turn her into a beautiful butterfly, which is in theme with this book, because the main male character in this book always calls Stella Butterfly. Now, the main male character in this book is Christian Harper. Now, him, I love. Christian Harper is basically one of the biggest tech guys out there. He also runs Harper Security, which is a multi-billion-dollar corporation. He is very, 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 very anti-love. He believes in protecting his heart at all costs. He thinks love is ruinous, but he's about to throw it all onto the fire just for Stella. So I did enjoy this book just because I love Christian as a character. We get a little bit of Christian in the second book, and we get a little bit of Christian in the third book. And I think when this book was about to be like, you know, when I was getting to the point where I was about to read this fourth book, I was sincerely hoping that Christian would be the main character, and he was. And that's what made this book for me. I think I had way more fun seeing Christian's journey and Christian's story than Stella's. The other books, though, I actually liked the female characters, and I think that's why this one fell a little flat for me. Stella is basically into fashion. She's a blogger. She's trying to build up her own fashion brand and all these things, which normally is like 100% my cup of tea. But for some reason in this book, I just felt like her character was very two-dimensional, and so I wasn't able to get into her character as much. That being said, loved the storyline, loved Christian and all the scenes with Christian in it. Just didn't care for Stella or her opinions. So that being said, that's why this book fell a little bit flat for me. So I ended up giving it a 3-star. I was actually struggling finishing this book. I'm not going to lie. Like the other 3 books, I was able to finish Twisted Love in a day. I finished Twisted Games in 2 days, and I finished Twisted Hate in 1 day as well. And then this book took me a week. So, you know, that being said, I think this one just moved a little bit slow for me. I wasn't super into the storyline because I just wasn't super into the main character, and I didn't really care about the whole stalker situation that was going on in this book. I do think the last few chapters kind of wrapped everything else up beautifully, and I do think they added some fun to the book, but overall I just wasn't super thrilled by this novel. That being said, I do think it's a fun novel and it's great to read, and I do think it's fun because you get introduced to a lot of characters who I do think show up in the Kings of Sins books. So that will definitely be a new set that I tackle in the future. I don't know if I'm going to Anna Huang more right now. Probably not, because I just finished these 4 and I'm now working my way through some Lauren Asher novels. But that being said, I do think it's a fun series overall, and I do think everyone who reads it should have a good time. This one is also a 4 chili level spice. There is a lot of that happens in this book. Again, that fell flat for me in this book too. I didn't really feel the chemistry between the two characters. So I think this book was just not for me. But overall, in terms of plot and storyline, it did move. And so that's why I would still give it a solid 3 stars. And I did really care for Christian's character. Overall, guys, I would say I'm really enjoying Anna Huang. I'm fully committed to reading even more of her books in the future, as you can already see on my shelf. And so I'm very excited to see where the rest of her books take me. If you enjoyed this review, then definitely leave a comment below. If you are interested in reading these books, leave me a comment below. If you have read these books before, leave me comments below, because that's the whole reason I do this channel. I want to hear your thoughts. I want us to be a bookish community. I want us to talk all things books. So please considering leaving your thoughts and comments below. That being said, I want to thank you so much for your time and for taking time out of your busy day to join me here at J-Bay's Corner. If you did enjoy this content, guys, I'm so sorry. If you did enjoy this content, please do considering hitting that subscribe button and that notification bell. I put out videos every Wednesday and Sunday, and I would love to sit and chit chat with you guys for many years to come. That being said, for those of you who are returning, thank you so much for coming back. And those of you that are new, I hope you were entertained today. I will catch you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.